In a small and humble village, there lived a young man named John, who was known for his extreme poverty. Despite having very little money, John possessed a heart of gold and always maintained his honesty in every single situation. He believed that hard work was the only path to success, refusing to take shortcuts or deceive others for profit. One fateful afternoon, as the sun began to set, John was walking home along a quiet and dusty country road. Suddenly, he spotted an old man named Eldric, who looked frail and exhausted, standing beside several heavy bags of luggage. The old man seemed unable to move his belongings, looking around desperately for someone strong enough to offer him assistance. Without hesitation, John approached the stranger and kindly asked if he needed any help carrying the heavy load up the hill. Eldric looked at the young man with a calculating gaze, wondering if this stranger could be trusted with his valuable possessions. The old man nodded slowly, pointing toward a steep hill in the distance, indicating that his destination was quite far away. There were 3 distinct bags sitting on the ground, and Eldric explained that he would pay John for his hard work. He revealed that the first bag contained copper, the second held silver, and the third was filled with pure gold. John lifted the bags onto his strong shoulders, surprised by their weight, but determined to help the old man regardless. They began their journey up the steep path, with John bearing the heavy burden while Eldric walked slowly beside him. As they walked, Eldric began to ask probing questions, openly doubting whether a poor man could truly be honest. John simply smiled and assured the old man that his poverty had never forced him to compromise his moral principles. The path became steeper and more difficult, but John continued to march forward, carrying the heavy treasure without complaint. Eldric stopped frequently to rest, testing John's patience, but the young man waited politely every time, without showing any anger. The old man whispered a temptation, asking why John did not take a few coins, since nobody would ever know. John shook his head firmly, stating that he would never take what did not belong to him, regardless of value. He recalled a time when he returned extra money to a vendor, valuing his integrity more than a few coins. Eldric laughed cynically, claiming that every man has a price and that John was simply waiting for a bigger opportunity. They passed through a dense section of the forest, where the shadows grew longer and the isolation of the wilderness increased. The old man continued to provoke him, pointing out John's tattered clothes and asking if he was tired of suffering. John admitted life was hard, but explained that he slept soundly every night because his conscience was always clear and clean. Suddenly, Eldric pretended to stumble and fall, and John immediately rushed to his aid, showing genuine concern for his safety. He dusted off the old man's coat and checked for injuries, proving that his kindness was not just an act. For a brief moment, a look of approval flashed in Eldric's eyes, but he quickly hid it behind his mask. They continued their ascent, the summit getting closer, but the physical challenge of the climb was becoming much more intense. John was beginning to feel the exhaustion, his breath coming in heavy gasps. Yet he refused to let go of the bags. Eldric told a story about a man who once betrayed him, watching closely to see if John would sympathize with the thief. John expressed genuine anger at the story, stating firmly that betrayal and dishonesty were the worst crimes a man could commit. They reached a secluded fork in the road where Eldric stopped abruptly, clutching his chest and gasping for air dramatically. The old man claimed he was too weak to continue and instructed John to carry the bags to the summit alone. John hesitated to leave the frail man behind, but Eldric insisted aggressively, urging him to secure the treasure at the top. John began to walk alone, the silence of the mountain enveloping him with only the sound of his own footsteps. As he walked, a dark thought suddenly whispered in his mind, drawing his attention to the immense wealth he carried. He thought about his youth and strength compared to the old man, realizing this gold could change his life forever. He paused on the path, torn between his lifetime of honesty and the sudden, overwhelming temptation of easy riches. The seed of greed took root rapidly, convincing him that he deserved this fortune after all his years of suffering. In a moment of madness, John turned away from the summit and began to run back towards his own home. He ran with desperate speed, his heart pounding, clutching the 3 bags tightly as he fled from the old man. He burst into his humble shack, slamming the door shut to lock out the world, his breath coming in short gasps. With trembling hands, he placed the bags on his table, ready to feast his eyes on the copper, silver, and gold. He eagerly untied the largest bag and dumped it out, but instead of gold, a pile of grey stones tumbled out. Panic seized him as he tore open the other 2 bags, only to find that they too were filled with rocks. Devastated and confused, he collapsed into his chair until he noticed a small folded piece of paper among the stones. He unfolded the note with shaking fingers and began to read the elegant handwriting that revealed a shocking and painful truth. The note read, "I am the king of this land. With no heir, I searched for one honest soul to succeed me." It continued, "I tested many, but only you showed promise. I was ready to give you my kingdom and my crown." The letter concluded with a devastating sentence. "If you had not run away, the throne would have been yours today." John wept bitterly, realizing that his momentary greed had cost him not just wealth, but a kingdom and his honor. A single dark thought had taken root, growing into an action that destroyed his entire future in a matter of minutes. He stared into the darkness, understanding that he had lost everything because he failed to control his mind for one moment. The ancient wisdom holds true. Watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your actions. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. And watch your habits, for they ultimately define your character and your destiny. Let John's story be a warning to us all. A lifetime of integrity can be lost in a moment of greed. We all face our own mountains to climb and heavy burdens to carry, and we all face that fork in the road. Master your mind and guard your thoughts, for they are the architects of your reality and the writers of your fate. Thank you for watching The Ancient Academy. Guard your thoughts carefully, for they shape your destiny. See you in the next story.